Hello. Okay, this is going to be an overview of the genotype analysis activity. It's actually going to be video one of two. In the first one, I'm just going to go over what you need to do for the Pear Deck if you missed that. So this was something that we did on Monday, um, or Monday, September 12th, although I might use this video for years to come. So this is the introduction to the genetics of Pear Deck. So I'm just going to point it out. You can access the student version of the Pear Deck in the absent folder, and you should do that. Um, I'm going to go through it very, very quickly just to make sure that we hit on some important points. But again, you should go to the Pear Deck in the absent folder from the day of this lesson and do the student paced Pear Deck on your own. All right. And I'm actually looking at the student view, so I'm not going to fill out the answers because that's your job. This is my job. Okay. So we started with the hold on, sorry. We started just to get your head in the right place. This was an activity, it's part of Lulu the Lioness, and we opened with that slideshow where you dragged the lions to either the Rietfontein or the Hamab Pride based on researchers' data of where they were found. So that was our observational data. And if you guys remember, we started with all of the females and this male 633 in the Rietfontein Pride, and then Lulu was lion 630, and she, at the next visit or something to that effect, was not in that pride. Then she was seen in another pride with cubs. Then the original pride had new males, and 633 was gone. So we kind of tracked the whereabouts based on the researchers' data. And this is all real data from Etosha National Park. At the end of that, we made a hypothesis, and most students thought that Lulu was the mother of the cubs because they traveled with her, and that maybe 633 was the father because he was there in the beginning and then kind of gone. So that was our observational data. So we started this lesson with, do we think that the observational data that we reviewed is accurate in determining parentage? So you can think about that. Was knowing where they were and seeing these lions in different places, is that good enough to say who's the parent? We had a hypothesis for who the parent was. How strong do we feel about that? Okay. Our big question again is how we determine parentage, and we're looking at that. I'm not going to play this video, but it's very important that you do go through the student-paced version of this Pear Deck and that you watch this. It's a lot and it's new stuff, but it will give you some basics that are really important to understand. So we're talking about, now that we've kind of done the observational data, we're talking about what other kind of data can we get? Can we get some data on these lions' DNA? Because as we know, we get our DNA from our biological parents. So first of all, what does DNA look like? Well, we pulled some out of a strawberry. That just kind of looked like a sloppy, snotty mess. We've maybe seen pictures of chromosomes like these, and we've probably seen pictures of the double helix like this. Well, it's all DNA. This picture right here, let me get my little spotlight. Hold on. We don't have a spotlight. Yeah. All right. Well, this right here, that is the double helix. That's the molecular form of DNA, super, super zoomed in. There's not even a microscope that can show you that. It's backed, the model is backed by evidence, but you can't see it up that close. Okay. But DNA is made of two sides and these bases in the middle that code for your traits. Super cool. Well, there's a lot of DNA in every cell, a lot. So it has to be organized. So the chromosome is the organized form of DNA. It's almost like wrapping thread around a spool. It's wrapped real, real, real tightly around these proteins, and then bunched into, like, super tightly wrapped, like it's actually called supercoiled, and then bunched into the nucleus of most cells. Okay. Sorry. This is a picture of all the chromosomes in a human cell. So you can see, and you should be able to see, that you have, all humans have 22 sets of autosomal chromosomes, which are like the body chromosomes, and then one set of what we call the sex chromosomes, because they determine our biological sex. Okay, so those determine biological gender, XY. If you have an XY, it means you got an X from your mom and a Y from your dad, and it means you are biologically male. And if there were two X's here, which would be two that were this kind of longer looking chromosome, that would mean that we are looking at a karyotype from a biological female. So a couple important things here. You get one, you can see that there's two number ones, two number twos, two number threes, and so on and so forth. You have 46 chromosomes in every cell, 23 sets, but each set in each pair, one comes from mom and one comes from dad. So like right here, just pretend that on this chromosome was the gene for like eye color, and that came from your dad, and maybe your dad gave you a blue eye gene. And then this would be the same chromosome from your mom, but maybe your mom, your biological mom, gave you the brown eye gene. So this would be the gene for eye color, and blue versus brown would be the alleles or versions, but more on that in a bit. Okay. Sorry. So this is a picture. This is actually, it says that it's lion data, but it's humans because there's 23. But just for example, if this were, let's say this were two lions, could this tell you if one was the mother? Could you get that from looking at that? You probably need to know a little more, don't you? What you can tell from a karyotype is whether you have a female or a male. So this is XY, this is XX. And you can tell if there's any extra or missing chromosomes, which are some chromosomal disorders can result from extra or missing chromosomes. But you can't tell what genes are where. You just see the chromosomes. Okay. Here's another zoomed in version of the chromosomes. And in this one, you can see like kind of like how I drew on the last slide. You have a gene here and a gene here, and these are two different alleles. They're indicated by the color here. And same with mom. So let's pretend that this is lion fur color, and let's pretend lions have orange and green fur options. So this is the orange allele. This is the green allele. Well, when organisms make sex cells, so sex cells are eggs and sperm, they have to take their sets of chromosomes and divide them in half. Think about that. Why do they have to do that? Well, if you're making sperm and egg, that sperm is going to eventually unite with an egg. And when it unites, the new organism has to have a complete set of chromosomes. So to make a new organism with a complete set, you need to cut them in half. This is pretty complex. Just try to get the basics. So when dad is making sperm, 50% of the sperm will get the orange allele because he had an orange and a green, and 50% will get the green allele. In this case, same with mom, but it could be that she had both green alleles or both orange. It's just in this example, she's got one of each as well. 50% of her eggs will have orange, 50% will have green. When these eggs and sperm unite, you can get any number of combinations. In this example, they show a green and a green uniting and an orange and an orange, but it could just as easily be a green and an orange, or two oranges on this one, or, it could be any combination. And that's what a Punnett square allows you to predict. Okay. So again, alleles are the different versions. So if this was the gene for fur color, this would be the orange allele and the green allele. Okay. So I'm going to skip this. And then we're going to talk about genotype and phenotype. So genotype and phenotype are how we refer to organisms when we're talking about their genetics. The genotype is the actual genes they have, the alleles. So for this example, in this picture, this has a capital A and a lowercase a. Well, what the heck? Why are we using capital and lowercases now? They use capital and lowercases in that P video in the beginning of the thing. But in this last slide, they used orange and green colors. So there's just a lot of different artists showing you a lot of different ways, but it's the same thing. So sometimes capitals and lowercase are used to indicate dominant or recessive genes, and that's what's happening here. So the genotype of an individual with these chromosomes for this particular trait would be capital A, lowercase a. Okay, so an example of a genotype here would be AA. Okay, eye color, nope. Hair color, nope. And how tall you are, nope. Little test taking strategy. Eye color, hair color, and how tall you are all examples of physical traits. So they can't be the answer because there's 3 of them and there's only one of this. So AA is the genotype. Could be big A, big A, big A, little a, or little a, little a. Okay. Phenotype describes the physical appearance. And just remember, P is physical. Genotype is genes or letters. Physical is the phenotype. So in this picture, you have both phenotype and genotype. This is the phenotype for purple flowers. The genotypes would be big B, or big B, little b. And this is the phenotype for white flowers, and the genotype here would be little b, little b. Okay, so again, we're just dipping our toe in the pool of genetics. It's definitely more complex than this, and there's more of it that we'll study later in the year, but this is just your kind of basic intro. Okay, so for this one, the phenotype would be eye color. Okay. All right, so I am going to skip through a lot of this. For the next activity, which there'll be another video explaining it, we're going to use data from the females spotted at the different prides in Africa, the males, and then the cubs, and we're going to try to see if we can figure out who belongs to who. In this activity, we're going to be looking at 4 genes. This gene, instead of using capitals and lowercase, they use different letters. A little confusing, sorry. Gene 1, there's 3 different alleles, A, B, or C. Gene 2, 3 different alleles. Gene 3, 3 different alleles. And gene 4 actually has 5 different alleles, so a lot of different versions of how the organism could look. All right, so I'm going to leave you with that for this intro. Again, please do the Pear Deck at a better pace and watch that video in the beginning of it so you have a full understanding of what we're getting into. But once you've done that, you can watch the next video introducing the activity and explaining how to do it. Thanks for listening.